What's up, GY6 heads? Everybody wants a little more performance out of their GY6. I don't care if it's a Ruckus, a Mad Dog, a Buggy, an ATV, one of those little like motorcycles with the GY6 in it. It doesn't matter. This video will apply. What am I even talking about? Well, one of the best upgrades on the freaking planet, slide style carburetor. Well, I already have a carburetor on my bike. Doesn't matter. I'm going to explain to you why the stock carburetor that came in your bike is no bueno if it's coming to performance. We've created our own carburetor kit. The rolling wrench carburetor kit comes in a bunch of different sizes and finishes. Let me show you what I mean. This is the rolling wrench carburetor kit. We've got 4 different styles and 3 different sizes to choose from. It's 100% plug and play. We've got 4 finishes to choose from: natural, black, polished, and pro. The pro has the clear float bowl. Our carburetors are going to come complete. It's going to come with an intake, jets, filter, cable, everything you need to drop it in. The one thing that you'll need to do is fine-tune the jetting. It's almost impossible to send jets out, have it be perfect for your bike. I want to show you guys the difference between our carburetors and the competition. OKO is probably one of the most popular carburetors out there. They're great carburetors. I just want to show you what we've improved upon. On ours, we've got the polished intake. Unlike the OKO, it's a really rough intake. We have that on both sides. It's kind of like port and polishing your engine intake, but we've done that through the carburetor. We've got the anodized choke lever. This one's plastic. And the other thing is our idle adjuster here on this one is it's got numbers on it. It's kind of a stylish anodized. And the most obvious thing is we've got a clear float bowl with the anodized ring to mount it. That's just for styling, and of course so you can see your fuel level. If you run into any fuel issues, it's really easy to diagnose. If you notice, this has a power valve here. Now, we've added these in our carburetors. It makes for better running, better performance. It's almost like another circuit. So, as you can see, there's a lot of improvements made. We've got 4 different finishes to choose from, but this is our Pro line. So why are we even talking about this? What is a PWK carburetor? What is a CVK carburetor? This is a CVK carburetor. You'll find this in 99.9% of factory motorcycles, ATVs, scooters, whatever, engines off OEM. Reason why is they're really easy to tune, they're a smooth running carburetor, but the problem is they're not good for performance. And we're looking for performance. What makes them different? So if you notice, the throttle cable comes in from the side. If I open the throttle all the way, check this out, like that, if you notice, you can't see through the carburetor. I'm going to turn it around. There's a diaphragm there. So again, I'll open this throttle all the way up, like that. Now we've got this sucker in the way. What happens is velocity, air pulls that up. So let me show you exactly what I mean. If I take an air compressor and spray here, see how that goes up? The way that works is when I open the throttle all the way, like this, it's open right now, velocity, air coming in, slowly lifts this slide up. And then eventually, you'll have full throttle. But what does that mean for performance? That means your throttle response is super slow. The reason why manufacturers use this style carburetor because it makes for a really smooth running engine. It's not too aggressive, rolls into the throttle really easy, and they're a lot easier to tune. Now, the slide style carburetor, if you notice, it doesn't have a spot for a cable on the side. It comes in right from the top. So I'll have to pull it from here since I don't have a cable attached, but if I pull that open, so you can see straight through there, there's not a secondary anything. So you're going to get immediate throttle response. All the air is coming through. It's going to make for a really aggressive throttle. Unlike the CVK style, this is the reason why you want to slide. The other thing is the size. This one is a 24 millimeter intake there. And this guy is a 28. Depending on your engine size, you're going to choose. We've got a drop down on the website. But on a 24 millimeter, that's good for gas mileage, but you can do a 26 millimeter on a 150cc and get way more performance. This is the intake boot that is on your original engine that attaches to the carburetor. If you notice, that size will not fit onto the new carburetor. It's quite a bit larger. So you will need a larger intake, which we provide. Let me show you the difference. Here's the 24 and here's the 28. Those throttle bodies are completely bigger. Remember, more air in, more air out, more performance. Now that you know how power robbing these diaphragm style carburetors are, these CVK carburetors, nice carburetors, they're just not made for performance. You know, you got the 24 millimeter, which is smaller than we would want. You've got the diaphragm in there that slows the throttle response down. The intake manifold that it attaches to is even smaller. I think by now you got the point. Installing a larger PWK style carburetor will give you a heck of a lot more performance. No better way than with our kit. They come standard with the 76-inch throttle cable. This is good for the stretched ruckuses. All this is going to be attached. You got your intake manifold attached to the carb. The throttle cable is attached inside the carb. We'll install the filter as well. The only thing you'll need to do is rejet it. We'll send it to you really close, and then you're going to get these jets with it, just basic jets. Let me show you how to install it. Locate your auto choke, just a plug like this. Push this little tab down, unplug it. Choke's disconnected. You're not going to be using this plug anymore because the new carburetor has a manual choke, which you'll probably never use. There'll be two 10 millimeter bolts for your intake. Loosen those. If you have a ruckus, you're probably going to have a clocking flange. Get these washers off of here. So those are off of there. We're going to leave this sucker on there. That's just the clocking flange. Be sure you don't drop anything down in there. If you have a vacuum operated fuel pump, you'll need to unplug the hose going to this. That's your vacuum fuel line for the fuel pump. In this case, we don't have that. Last step is we've got our fuel line. Go ahead and loosen that. There we go. We can pull this sucker out of the way. So here's our complete carburetor setup, ready to install. Now all we got to do is match up the holes just like before. This is our fuel inlet. If there's a red cap on there, just go ahead and take it off. Attach the fuel line. It's always a good idea to get new fuel line because you never know the condition of your stock fuel line and how long it's been dry rotting. We have this Helix style fuel line that's really, really good. You put your hose clamp over the top, of course. As far as these hoses go, you're going to have this hose here at the top, and you'll have another one right at the top. On the other side, those are just going to hang. Those are actually just breather hoses. Now the last step is to replace the old cable with the new cable, since they've got different ends. So I've ran this cable the same way as the old cable. I'm going to loosen this guy first before I unbolt anything. Like that, and then separate the bolt, the two halves of the, you know, your throttle is going to look maybe different. Throttles are always different, but same type concept. I've also power lubed my cable. We've got a power luber on the website if you want to do that. That way it's super, you know, nice and lubed up. Unlike this one I'm taking out, that's cable is starting to shed, so that's not good. So we'll just loosen it like this, and the new cable back in. It's like that. We won't tighten this lock nut up until we're completely done, but just have to find the proper, that feels about right. Yep, and then we'll just install this back. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit of grease on here just to make sure that it's not going to stick. Put a little lube down the channel. And then put it back how it was. And then you just got to make sure that you're not binding up in any way your throttle, things like that. When you're putting the throttle back, make sure that this grip isn't like pushed all the way to the end, because that will cause a problem. Because then when you're giving it throttle, it's kind of sticking on the end of the bar. So remember that one. Once I get it kinda, that feels good. I'm going to tighten the rest of this up. Okay. Crank the lock nut down. And then to get rid of the free play, see that free play? You're going to adjust this guy out. You want to make sure that you turn it left and right when you're done to make sure it's not going to throttle when you go left or right. And then crank it down with a 10 millimeter here. You got an 8 to hold it. Feels good. Turn left, turn right once you get it started to make sure that it's not going to rev up, but there should be play in it, not pulling the throttle in any way. And it should snap back perfectly. You can adjust the free play here, or pull this boot up and you can adjust the free play there as well. I'll show you the basics here. This is your idle here. You turn that, that's going to make the idle go up and down. You want it at about 1800 RPM. You want to make sure that you're doing this when it's completely warmed up. So this is your air fuel mixture screw. So I'm going to just tighten it until the idle goes down or up. Nope, it's worse, so you need to go back the other way. I want to go back the other way until I find the highest idle point. About right there. Now I can bring our idle back down. Now our idle circuit is set. We won't get into the jetting on this, but the throttle response is much, much better. And this is your choke here. Chances are you won't use it. If I pull it up, it'll probably die. Yep. So on a cold start, you can pull this up to start it, but you probably never use it. So idle adjustment, air fuel screw, and the rest is jetting. We'll go into that on a whole nother video. But this is the way the carb runs straight out of the box at high altitude. If you have a 150cc, I recommend a 26 millimeter carburetor. If you have a 170 or a 180cc, 28 millimeter carburetor. And if you have a 190cc to a 232, even a 205, I would do a 30 millimeter carburetor. Now these carburetor sizes are great for high altitude and sea level. We've done a bunch of testing and jetting and things like that to figure out what carburetor works best, because nothing would be worse than having a perfectly running 190cc, 232, whatever you have, and then you go to like Colorado where we're at, or like the Smoky Mountain Crawl in Tennessee, 6,000 feet, and your bike doesn't run. We figured all that out. So that is our plug and play, well, as close as you can get to plug and play, GY6 slide carburetor setup. You can find it on our website. I'll put a link down in the description, rollingwrenchjammer.com, and you can purchase one of these. This stuff works way better than the CVK carburetor. Throttle response is amazing. See you in the next video.